We're going to tackle one last topic here in Unit 6, and that is the idea of what's called an enhanced for loop. So, what enhanced for loops are just kind of another way of using loops, specifically with arrays. And so that's kind of why it's in Unit 6 here, is that they're really meant for arrays and to be used with arrays. And so we're just going to jump in and see kind of what this looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new integer array. Let's say that it's an integer array that contains grades. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and define those right now. We'll say that, I don't know, I take some tests and I get a 90 and 75 and an 80 and 74 and a 92 and a 100. Okay, perfect. So these are my grades in my integer array. And so let's say I want to go ahead and calculate the average. And so what I'm going to do here is what I would normally do is I would write a for loop to go through and look at each index and then add them all up, and then I'll divide by the number of items that I have. And so I'm going to do that, but I'm going to write my for loop in a slightly different way. And so what that for loop looks like is this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new variable that I can kind of store, temporarily hold each item in my array. And so instead of having my 3 components in my for loop like I normally do, I'm just going to have 2, and it's going to look like this. So I'm going to have an integer, and then I'm just going to call it grade. So you'll notice that I have the grades array, and then I'm just saying grade is going to be like my temporary holder, and I'm going to have a colon, and then I'm going to have grades here. So what I'm doing, and the way that we read this, and another name for these enhanced for loops are called for each loops, because the way that we read this is that for each grade in grades do something. So grade is going to be this variable that I'm declaring right now, and one at a time it's going to get each item in the grades array and then do something with it. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to add them all up. So I'm going to make integer called result. We're going to start it at 0. And what I want to do is I'm going to take result and add to it my grade. Okay. So like I said, I'm making a temporary variable called grade for each item in grades. And then I'm going to add them all up. Okay. So this is an enhanced for loop. It's just really a shorthand of working with for loops along with arrays. So at the end of the day, what I'm going to do after I don't want to call this result. I'm going to call it total. Not that it matters. What I want to do is add up take my total and divide it by how many things I have, so I can actually get my average. So print. Oh man, I'm struggling. All right, so I'm going to cast this to a double. I'm going to take total and then divide it by the total number of things I have. Now, I know that I have 6 things here in my list, but I want to make this so that I can change this. So I'm going to use the length of my array. So grades.length. Perfect. So what this should do is add up each item in my grades list and then divide by the number of them that I have. So I'll go ahead and try that out. I have now, oh, nope, we have a new, so Java, compile, and then we call this enhance. Fun. Wow, no errors, good day. Enhance. Fun. Oh, nope. Enhance fun. And I get that my average was right about an 85. Perfect. Okay. So we need to look at one more thing here, just to really understand what's going on. So let's say that I've got all these grades in my test, but the teacher decided to put an adjustment on the test. So I want to add 2 to each of my grades. Everything's being adjusted by 2 points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take grade, and I'm going to set it equal to grade plus 2. So here's my question. So will this do what I think it should do and raise my average? And does this have any effect on my grades array? Now, we, unfortunately, just recently wrote a class here, Fun with Arrays, that allowed me to print out my array. So I'm going to go ahead and use that to my advantage here. So we called it toString. It takes in my array. So I'm going to print out system.print line. And I forgot what it's called. So this was fun with arrays dot toString, and then it's going to take in my grades array. So it's going to print that out. So I'm curious to know two things. Number one, does adding 2 to each thing change my average? So it should go from, I think it was 85 something, so now it should be at 87. And then does it actually change what my grades are? So we're going to find out both those things. So we'll go ahead and print this. Go ahead and run it. Oh, no, that wasn't the right one. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. Okay. And then we'll run it. Okay, so it looks like it did increase my average, which is perfect, by 2 points, which is what it should. But then I look at my items, and it looks like I have 90 and 75 and 80 and 74 and 92 and 100. So it didn't change the actual values in my array. So this is super important here. And so this is one, well, you can view it as a benefit or a drawback here of enhanced for loops. And that is the fact that I don't actually get to access the values themselves. What I'm getting is a temporary kind of a holder of what the values are in my array. And so what's really happening kind of behind the scenes is, so this is not code that I would write in here, but grade is getting the value of what's in grades at, I essentially. And so when I go and I change grade later, it doesn't actually change that value. And so by changing what grade is, it doesn't change what's in my array. So you can view this as a good thing or a bad thing. It depends on what you're looking for. But whenever I'm in my enhanced for loop, I can't actually make changes to the values in my array unless I, pull them in some other way. But this value right here, this grade, this temporary holder of information from my array does not change what's in it. So if we're being totally honest here, I don't use enhanced for loops a ton, or really at all. I like my regular for loop just fine. But it's something that you definitely might see on, you definitely will see on the AP exam, and so it's worth knowing what this actually does. It is nice, it is faster, it is useful for whenever I'm specifically looking at arrays. I want to access items, but then of course not change any of the items in the array. So that's enhanced for loops. Pretty straightforward topic here. It's just really applying this new thing. And so now whenever you see these in code, you'll be able to understand what they are and be able to execute functions based on them.